Hey everyone, it's me, Goku! Don't forget to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming. Here, you'll find the latest Dragon Ball news and content. Also, don't forget to like the video and follow Unreal on both Instagram and Twitter.
Kakarot! You, Kakarot, you will be the first to turn on notifications. And give this video a like right now, or else I'll destroy you!
And so it finally now looks as though this is about to be the moment that we've all been waiting for. And as the universe looks on, a grand battle looms against the very formidable Cell Max. However, this conflict is but the prelude to a more profound shift that is about to emerge. For as powerful as Cell Max is, something even more powerful is about to be born. And as the stage is set for a historic finale against Cell Max, a conflict that promises to be a defining moment in our cosmic history with neither Goku or Vegeta in sight. This moment, my dear viewers, is not just a metamorphosis of power and a cosmic change of Gohan's understanding of power, but a pivotal shift that will forever alter the very landscape of our universe as we all know it.
As we kick off Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 99 with Cell Max looking to be a much bigger threat now than how he was ever shown being before, as even with Orange Piccolo being shown putting all of his faith within Gohan and reassuring Gohan that he has to do this in being the one to take Cell Max down, it was just upon with the plan being agreed upon with Gohan being shown powering up, as with Piccolo being shown having to once again insert himself back into the battle with Cell Max, was when all chaos was set loose upon Piccolo being shown having to engage with Cell Max once again, because even despite with Orange Piccolo understanding the fact that he wasn't stronger than Cell Max, nor could he do anything to stop him, this by no means was this a case in point scenario where Piccolo was going to give up either way, because even despite the fact that with Cell Max being shown unleashing a barrage of attacks that really went as far as to hurt Piccolo, what I really enjoy from this version of seeing Orange Piccolo battle against Cell Max in the manga versus the film is that this version of the fight itself looks to be far more barbaric and far more intense than what we've seen go down in the movie, to where Piccolo undoubtedly deserves his flowers and recognition for what he had ended up doing during this moment in battle, because while everyone else stood idly by and seeing Piccolo just get absolutely eviscerated and also being shown getting knocked down by Cell Max, was this only a moment where Piccolo went as far as to showcase more of his resolve in pleading for Gohan to go all out by having to unleash this one critical attack that could be a difference maker in this battle. The very second Piccolo went as far as to stand back up and having to re-enter the fight with Cell Max, even despite the fact of seeing Cell Max viciously make his way towards him, by no means was Piccolo shown having to admit any sort of fear of Cell Max, but instead had only gone as far as to connect a thunderous shot to Cell Max's face as Cell Max went on to do the same, which was ultimately identical to what we've seen go down in the movie, to which even with the two being shown having to separate, was when Cell Max was once again shown having to take the advantage in attacking Orange Piccolo by from that point using his tail before having to double axe handle him down onto the ground, which even then, despite all of this, Piccolo was refusing to back down, but instead had wanted to go as far as to buy Gohan the most amount of time that he could, which I only think goes as far as to say a lot about Orange Piccolo and the amount of durability that he has, because imagine having to be in a position where you have to endure this much punishment from this kind of enemy, only to want to refuse and having to go down, but instead buy as much time as you possibly could in holding Cell Max back, which was essentially what Piccolo was doing, to which even with Krillin having to acknowledge Gohan as he was shown having to power up, even Gohan himself knew that this battle involving Orange Piccolo and Cell Max wasn't going to last very long, so even despite with Gohan having to watch all of this go down right before his very eyes, he was still struggling to concentrate, as even despite with all of the punishment that Orange Piccolo was shown having to take, the only other individual thus far that, although fearful of what may happen, had the courage in standing on up to do something about this was none other than Fat Gotenks, as even with the others having to be shown quickly taking their leave and following Gotenks right back into the midst of battle, Cell Max by no means was bothered by any of this, but instead had taken the opportunity and having to go after everybody, which he ended up doing, because one by one, starting with Gotenks and then following up with Android 18, Cell Max began to make light work of everybody there by knocking them all away, until it was only just when Cell Max was shown getting rid of Krillin where Gamma 1 was back on the battlefield and having to charge up for a massive attack, but Cell Max by no means was looking to take any more attacks by any of the Gammas, so instead, Cell Max had once again gone as far as to demonstrate his speed by teleporting out of the way, by from there being shown having to use his tail in knocking Gamma 1 back down, which was extremely brutal by the end because the only individuals left standing were in fact Orange Piccolo and Ultimate Gohan, in which even this with Gohan being shown struggling internally and having to pay attention and charging up enough power to finally get rid of Cell Max. Cell Max instead was by no means willing to slow down, but instead had charged on up in unleashing a devastating kick that was solely aimed for the purpose of damaging Orange Piccolo, only for Orange Piccolo to from that point be shown grabbing onto Cell's leg and refusing to back down, as even with Cell having to notice this, what Cell Max tried to do was use his tail as a means of catching Piccolo off guard, but Orange Piccolo was not having it, so upon Piccolo having to notice what Cell Max was about to do was when Orange Piccolo quickly went on to grab onto Cell Max's giant tail and stopping him from smashing it right into him, and from that point had immediately weaponized it by using it as a battering weapon against Cell Max himself, but this too didn't seem to last very long because it was shortly after Piccolo had done this was when Cell Max had capitalized in unleashing a gigantic mouth blast at Piccolo, which ultimately had resulted in Piccolo's entire left arm being blown off his body, which only goes as far as to distract Gohan by making him that much more angrier as he's witnessing all of this go down as one of the last fighters standing, to which even as Gohan was from that point then shown having to do so as he was trying to power up was when Gohan then went on to respond, "No, Piccolo won't last much longer," with Piccolo having to shout, "I said stay back or this'll all have been for nothing! Don't make a move until your power surpasses his. No matter what happens to me, keep focusing!" To which this in and of itself did not last very long, only because the very second Cell Max had went right back on the attack and not giving Piccolo an inch for his troubles, Han and Bulma, as they were observing from their ship, are now forced to watch in utter horror as the massacre that was taking place below was only continuing to intensify that much more, as even they themselves, serving as innocent bystanders, had understood exactly what was on the line, including by having to see firsthand on how bad the overall situation that was taking place below was, in which soon after with Cell Max launching Piccolo towards the sky above and preparing to end his life, this now became the very moment where Gohan was beginning to fear for Piccolo's life, and knowing that Piccolo had almost nothing left in the tank to continue, the entirety of the overall situation just seemed to be going from bad to worse as things kept going on until, despite with Piccolo being shown getting blasted above with Cell Max preparing to launch his final attack, which ultimately could have resulted in the end of Piccolo's life if no one had come to Piccolo's aid, in which the very second Piccolo's body was now beginning to descend on down, Gamma 1 had realized exactly what Cell Max was trying to now do, as by no means was Gamma 2 willing to risk someone else having to lose their lives in this battle against Cell Max, so what Gamma 1 ended up doing was Gamma 1 had decided to risk his own life as a way to stop Cell Max from destroying Orange Piccolo, with Gamma 1 immediately dashing in Piccolo's direction to ensure Piccolo's safety by having to get in between the blast, in which the very moment Gamma 1 was finally shown having to make it, Cell's blast was shown having to also finally connect, which ultimately had resulted in a gigantic explosion being shown taking place up above the sky, and Gohan looked devastated because in a moment where Gohan had assumed that his longtime friend and mentor had been essentially vaporized, we slowly now begin to see how Gohan was beginning to slip into his power more and more and more the deeper he was beginning to think about this, because as Cell Max went on to proclaim his dominance over everyone by letting out a ferocious scream, this had only now become the very moment that we've all been waiting for, because just as Gohan was now shown having to do the same, Gohan erupts with a rage like no other, awakening a power which was far beyond Gohan's own understanding, echoing a force and a cry that was felt by everyone there, as the time had now finally arrived for Gohan's new and most powerful transformation to be born, with everyone including Krillin and Android 18 having to look on in absolute disbelief as to what they were seeing, this had now only marked the official beginning of Beast Gohan's debut within the Dragon Ball Super manga, as we finally now have the big reveal of Toyotaro's version of Beast Gohan within the Dragon Ball Super manga. And dare I say, this is only just for me, as I do happen to speak for myself and nobody else when I say that Beast Gohan in the Dragon Ball Super manga looks so much better than how he did in the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie. So you've got to give Toyotaro props for creating and designing Beast Gohan the way he does here, because although Gohan's hair is still a bit wacky in terms of its size, he looks so much more menacing in the manga than how he did in the movie, in which, similar now to the movie, with Cell Max being shown flipping out in preparing for a gigantic attack which he assumed that Gohan was not going to recover from, had become the very moment where Cell Max was then shown having to finally connect, only for absolutely nothing to happen upon the moment of contact, with Gohan still being shown having to stand there. With Gohan being shown keeping his composure and not removing his eyes from Cell whatsoever, was when the moment Gohan was from that point then shown removing his hand from his body and having to respond, "Is that all you've got? Because it's my turn now." To which the next thing you know, with one swift kick to Cell Max's gut, we then see a very amazing shot of Cell Max feeling the pain that Beast Gohan was now beginning to set upon him, as I ultimately once again do prefer as to what I'm seeing go down in the manga right now by comparison to that of the film. So hats off to Toyotaro for the amazing details of not only having to showcase Beast Gohan's transformation, but also the kick that he had delivered on Cell Max's guts, as just like we've seen go down in the movie with Cell Max sent out flying into the distance as Gohan had waited to see what was about to happen involving Cell Max, was when surprisingly enough from out of nowhere, that was when from behind Gohan, Piccolo's body was shown having to drop on down, except the only big difference here was that in the manga variation, we see as to how Gamma 1 had created a barrier to protect Piccolo with, which was never the case in the movie, which is why I also prefer the manga version that much more, only because Gamma 1 is also shown doing that much more by comparison to his movie counterparts, in which the very second Gamma 1 had stood up in reminding Gohan that Piccolo will be okay, but he has to finish this, was when once again Cell Max had made his re-entry by having to leap on up and screaming out in absolute rage, by from that point then being shown raising his arm up, as within this very moment in time, we know exactly as to what Cell Max is planning, we know exactly where this is all going, because with Cell Max now shown creating this gigantic ball of energy, which almost kind of looks like the Revenge Death Ball based on its overall color design, we can only assume that Cell Max was ready to end it all, including by possibly destroying the entire planet if it meant taking out Gohan as a whole, which you can even see it from above Earth's atmosphere in the way Cell Max's attack had looked as he was even shown condensing it on down, as even Gohan himself had now realized that by no means could he have Cell Max actually have this attack hit Earth, otherwise everything would be destroyed, as it was right before Gohan was from that point then shown having to do anything about this, was when from out of nowhere one of Orange Piccolo's hands was shown having to extend on out in wrapping itself around Cell Max, in not only helping serve as being the driving factor which was going to keep Cell Max bound in place, but Piccolo knew that this was going to be their one and only opportunity to finish off Cell Max for good, as Piccolo from that point then went on to respond, "Oh no, not on my watch, you're going nowhere, now Gohan, do it!" As with Gohan now preparing and coming up with a solution to finally put down Cell Max for good, was when Cell Max almost kind of realized the situation that he was in, as by no means was Cell willing to back down whatsoever nor give up, but instead, Cell Max only continued to resist, even tugging Piccolo on forward as Piccolo was beginning to lose ground, but once again, just as he was shown serving the purpose in doing whatever it took to make sure that Cell Max had went down, was when Piccolo was shown, even despite getting his head kicked in, not willing to let go whatsoever, as Gohan in the distance was also now preparing for the Makan Kosampo, which is also known as the special beam cannon, which I think Toyotaro had captured perfectly, as even with Cell Max now looking absolutely petrified at the overall idea of being bound in place, with Gohan also preparing for a massive attack, was when yet again, similar to that of the film with Cell Max being shown using his wings in trying to fly away, was when Piccolo was shown doing everything within his own ability to make sure that A, Cell Max doesn't get away, and B, that Gohan was able to garner the time needed in order to use this special beam cannon to blast Cell Max into oblivion, which ultimately enough, as Gohan was witnessing all of this go down, as he only needed just a little bit of time before he can use this, was when Cell Max was shown having to ravage the skies by dragging Piccolo along, until, little by little, we from that point then see how Gamma 1 was actually now able to blast one of Cell Max's wings completely off of his body, which was yet again another little additional feature that made use of every other character outside of just Piccolo and Gohan, because it was seconds after Gamma 1 was shown firing his gun and destroying one of Cell Max's wings, where Krillin now from out of nowhere had attempted to do the same by using his Destructo Disc to cut it, but instead what Krillin's Destructo Disc actually ended up doing was simply cracking Cell Max's last wing before from out of nowhere 18 was shown stepping on in, and immediately from that point shown having to descend on down and snapping his final wing in half, which only created that much more leeway for Piccolo to scream in utter rage for Gohan to finally now seize this opportunity to destroy Cell Max, because if there was ever a time for there to be any other moment where this was going to be the decisive factor in having to win, then this was going to be that very moment, as Piccolo wanted to reassure Gohan that it's either now or never, as it was only just before Beast Gohan was from that point shown having to fire off the Makan Kosampo, aka the Special Beam Cannon, was when Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 99 then comes to a close. Now, this looks to finally be it, even though the ending is a giant tease to which they could have ultimately had Gohan just blast away Cell Max to begin with. It only now looks as though the finale involving the superhero arc retelling is going to be taking place next month in December, and not only that, but we may potentially actually get to see what happens after the defeat of Cell Max, including potentially getting the big reveal of the next arc in the Dragon Ball Super manga courtesy of Jump Festa, which is undoubtedly going to go as far as to showcase the events of what had happened after the events of Cell Max, if Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are going to come to Earth, or if something else entirely ends up taking place, to which I will say that I really enjoyed the Beast Gohan portrayal in the manga more so than the movie, as I do also think that a lot of us can also agree that Beast Gohan in the manga looks better than he did in the movie, but I want to go ahead and get your thoughts down in the comment section below about this when in regards to 3 specific questions, with that being number 1, on a rating scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being absolutely abysmal and with 5 being phenomenal, what would you guys rank Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 99 on a scale of 1 to 5? Question number 2 is, what do you think is going to happen after the events of everyone getting together and after Cell Max is defeated? Do you believe that our heroes are going to come to Earth, or is something else going to happen that's going to lead into the next arc going into 2024? And lastly, question number 3 is, what do you think the next arc for the Dragon Ball Super manga is going to be? Is it maybe going to involve Black Frieza? Is it going to maybe involve the end of Z Budokai Tournament? Or do you simply believe that something else is going to happen? To which I will say that this manga chapter has me excited for Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 100 next month, only because not only is this going to be manga chapter number 100, but this is also going to mark a very pivotal moment in finally setting the course in where we're going to be going next. So again, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts down below, to which as always, thank you all so much for watching, everybody. Thank you all so much for your time. To where if you also just so happen to be new to this channel and of course love Dragon Ball and anime, then I do encourage for you all to head on over and smash that subscribe button, on top of making sure to give this video a big fat thumbs up by smashing that like button down below. Tune back in for more, and with all that being said, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you down in the comment section below and in the next video. Take it easy, guys, and have a great day. Peace!
Hello! Did you know that you can stay up to date with the latest Dragon Ball content by simply subscribing to UnrealEntGaming?
Also, don't forget to follow on these social media platforms, you sexy son of a bitch.
Roshi!
Silent Cell, me and the fans are having a moment. That's right. I know what you want. Extra long, thick Dragon Ball content. Quality reviews with flawless editing. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You dirty bitch.
Roshi, the fuck?
God damn it, I need them to subscribe, Cell.
And we're demonetized.
Yeah, screw it. Let's cut to the video.
Shut